I never thought I'd be betrayed by someone I once called my work bestie. But that's exactly what happened. If you've ever trusted a colleague only to watch them twist the knife behind your back, this story is going to hit you hard. Before I dive in, hit subscribe so you don't miss how this wild workplace betrayal unfolds. What happened to me could happen to anyone, and trust me, it gets insane. I was 3 years into my job at a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago. I wasn't climbing the corporate ladder fast, but I was consistent, respected, and genuinely liked by most of the team. Then came Riley. Riley joined our department as a senior strategist, charismatic, sharp, and everyone's favorite from day one. Even I liked him at first. We clicked over coffee breaks, dark jokes about impossible deadlines, and late nights prepping decks for impossible clients. But slowly, little things started to go off. Projects I'd led suddenly had Riley's name all over them when our boss gave praise. He'd offer to help with presentations, then somehow end up delivering them alone. I brushed it off. Maybe I was overthinking it. Until the day I got called into HR. Apparently, someone had anonymously reported me for inappropriate conduct in the workplace. I was blindsided. I don't drink, don't flirt, and I keep my head down. But HR had a typed-out list of vague complaints and concerns, all of which painted me like some manipulative, power-hungry freak. I was given a warning. Nothing official, but it would be on record. And Riley? He was in the hallway afterward, pretending not to notice I was nearly shaking. But I saw the smirk. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't just office politics. This was war. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying every conversation, every meeting, every little moment where Riley had inserted himself into my work. The anonymous HR complaint? It was written too cleanly, too specifically. Someone knew my schedule, my tasks, even the names of co-workers I'd barely interacted with. Only someone close could have crafted that. And that someone was Riley. The next morning, I showed up early. Earlier than usual. I sat at my desk in silence, watching as the rest of the team filtered in, smiling and sipping their lattes like nothing was wrong. And then came Riley, confident, smooth, wearing the tailored suit and smug grin. He looked right at me and nodded. I nodded back. But in my head, I was already plotting. I knew I needed proof. Not suspicion. Not gut feelings. Evidence. So I started keeping notes. Every conversation, every email, every Slack message. I even bought a cheap voice recorder and kept it in my bag when we had one-on-one meetings. It felt paranoid, but after that HR ambush, I wasn't taking chances. Weeks went by. Riley kept doing what he did best, smiling in meetings, stealing credit, and making me look just a little less competent than I actually was. I'd speak up with an idea, and he'd casually undercut it. I'd present a campaign, and he'd tweak it before sending it to the client. He was playing chess. But so was I. Then one day, it happened. He slipped up. During a Friday meeting, our boss, Denise, complimented the pitch we'd worked on. She said it had Riley's tone all over it, but the original draft, the one with the timestamps, the ideas, the direction, was mine. Fully mine. I waited until everyone left. Then I printed both versions and dropped them into Denise's mailbox. No note. Just facts. 2 days later, I was called into her office. And Riley? He looked pale when I walked past his desk. Something had shifted. And he knew it. Denise sat behind her desk, the two drafts side by side. She didn't waste time. I need you to be honest with me, she said. This pitch. It's yours? I nodded, heart pounding. Every word. Check the file metadata, timestamps, authorship. He edited it after I submitted it. She leaned back in her chair and exhaled through her nose, slowly, like she was absorbing the weight of it. You know, I've been hearing things lately. Little whispers about friction between you two. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The tension was obvious to anyone paying attention. I'll look into this, she said. But for now, just keep things professional. Professional? Sure. As I left her office, I passed Riley again. His monitor reflected an email from Denise. I couldn't read it, but his face said enough. His jaw was tight, his fingers frozen on the keyboard. That weekend, I went full detective mode. I combed through old emails and found a few where Riley had forwarded my drafts to his personal Gmail. That was a violation of company policy. I took screenshots. Then, I reviewed Slack conversations, subtle gaslighting, passive-aggressive comments, and moments where he took credit for team projects in private threads with Denise. The man was a walking HR violation dressed in Hugo Boss. And then, like fate was on my side, I found the jackpot. An email he sent to another coworker, a misfired message intended for someone else, talking about clearing the field and eliminating distractions. The subject? Me. I printed everything. This time, I didn't just give it to Denise. I gave it to HR. The next few days were tense. Silent glares across the office. Awkward pauses when Riley entered the break room. He knew something was coming. But he didn't know how bad it was. Not yet. And then, Monday morning came. And with it, a bombshell. Riley didn't show up to work. By 10 a.m., the whispers had started. Anyone heard from Riley? Maybe he's sick? Wasn't he supposed to lead the client call today? I just sat at my desk, pretending to type, but my ears were wide open. Around noon, Denise stepped out of her office with HR's Cassandra close behind. They looked formal. Controlled. Not the usual casual stride for coffee. Then came the message, a company-wide email. Effective immediately, Riley Thompson is no longer employed with our firm. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. Just like that, he was gone. People were stunned. Slack lit up. Someone even dropped a gif of popcorn popping. But no one knew the real story, except me. I wish I could say I felt relief. That I pumped my fist and smiled with satisfaction. But in truth, I felt hollow. I'd spent weeks feeling hunted, undermined, paranoid. And now that he was out, I just felt numb. But the aftermath was just beginning. 2 days later, Denise called me into her office again. "You did the right thing," she said. "I can't go into details, but HR found more than enough. We're adjusting some internal processes. And for what it's worth, I've spoken with the executive team about your promotion." I blinked. "Promotion?" She nodded. "You were overdue. Riley created noise around your name, and we listened to the wrong voice. That's on us." I walked out of that office dazed. The raise. The new title. The apology. But what I didn't know was that Riley wasn't done with me. Because 3 weeks later, I got a LinkedIn message that made my stomach drop. It was from a recruiter. "Hi. Just got off the phone with Riley Thompson. He had interesting things to say about your collaboration style. He was poisoning me outside the company now." And suddenly, this wasn't just about office politics. It was about protecting my entire career. I stared at the message, rereading it until the words blurred. Riley Thompson had interesting things to say about your collaboration style. What the hell did that mean? I messaged the recruiter back, casually. "Thanks for reaching out. Just curious, what exactly did Riley share?" No response that day. Or the next. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep my composure at work. Everyone assumed the storm had passed. I had gotten the promotion, I had a new title on my email signature, and my calendar was packed with strategy meetings. On the surface, things were going great. But inside, I was spiraling. I had spent months cleaning up the mess Riley made inside the office. Now he was trying to sabotage me from the outside. I had no idea how many bridges he'd set on fire behind my back. And in marketing, a small, networked industry, reputation meant everything. Then the recruiter replied. "He said you had trouble working collaboratively, especially under pressure. Suggested you could be volatile in fast-paced environments." Volatile? I laughed out loud, bitterly. That was his tactic, to throw chaos into every room and watch others implode. I typed back carefully, professionally. "I understand. Just for transparency, Riley was let go from our company for unethical behavior, including misattributing work and internal manipulation. I'm happy to provide references or additional context if helpful." They replied within 5 minutes. "Appreciate the clarity. That helps a lot." Still, the damage was done. If one recruiter had heard from him, how many others had? I had to act. Not just to defend my name, but to control the narrative. And I knew exactly where to start. Riley had underestimated one thing: I had just as many industry connections as he did. And some of them owed me favors. That night, I pulled up my old contact list, former co-workers, agency partners, even a couple of C-suite executives I'd worked with on freelance campaigns years ago. I wasn't going to sit back and let Riley smear my name in silence. If he wanted to play this game, I'd make sure I wasn't playing it alone. I started messaging people. Politely. Professionally. Hey, quick question, if Riley Thompson ever reaches out about me or our former workplace, would you mind giving me a heads up? Some false info has been going around, and I'd like to make sure I can clear it up. The replies rolled in. Some hadn't heard from him. A few had, and now the pattern was clearer than ever. He said you were a difficult team player. He claimed you used his work and passed it off as your own. He mentioned a conflict at your last job. Each time, I clarified. And with every message, the anger inside me simmered hotter. But then, something unexpected happened. One contact, Jenna, a project manager who'd worked briefly with Riley, told me something that stopped me cold. Funny you mention this. Riley reached out last week, asked if I'd recommend him for a position here. Said you'd probably badmouth him because you were still bitter about being demoted. But I looked into the company records, and saw you got promoted, not demoted. His whole story fell apart. I stared at her message for a long time. Riley wasn't just trying to ruin my name. He was rewriting the past, to protect his own. And for the first time since this mess began, I realized something. He was scared of me. Because I had something he didn't. Credibility. So I made a decision, one that would change everything. I was going to make everything he did public. Not in a petty post. Not in a rant. I was going to expose the truth, professionally, strategically, and permanently. The next morning, I drafted a clear, concise email addressed to our leadership team and HR, summarizing everything, Riley's manipulations, the documented evidence I had, and the ongoing attempts to tarnish my reputation outside the company. I attached screenshots, emails, and links where appropriate. I hit send and felt a strange mixture of anxiety and relief. This wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. It was about taking control of my narrative before Riley could do any more damage. Within 24 hours, I got a response from Denise and the HR director. They appreciated the transparency and promised to handle the external implications carefully. It wasn't a dismissal of the issue, it was a promise of support. That same day, I received a surprising call from a senior executive at a client company I'd worked with. "I've heard some troubling rumors," she said, her voice careful but direct. "I wanted to hear your side." I explained everything. The betrayal, the sabotage, the smear campaign. She listened. Then she said, "Thank you for being upfront. Your professionalism means a lot. We value our relationship with your company, and with you." Her reassurance felt like a lifeline. But even with this small victory, the office atmosphere shifted. Some coworkers seemed uneasy, walking on eggshells around me. Others kept their distance. It was as if I'd become both a target and a symbol, the cautionary tale of what happens when office politics spiral out of control. And yet, despite it all, I started to notice unexpected alliances forming. People who'd been silent before, suddenly offering support. A quiet nod in the hallway. An offer to cover a meeting. Even Riley's old project partner, Samantha, reached out with a simple message. "If you ever want to talk or need help, I'm here." It was a reminder that even in toxic environments, trust can still be rebuilt. But the real test was still ahead. Because Riley wasn't finished yet. And neither was I. The tension in the office grew heavier by the day. People whispered behind closed doors, stealing glances whenever Riley's name came up. The HR department was discreetly investigating, but no official updates trickled down. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, focusing on my work and trying to rebuild the bridges Riley had burned. Samantha's unexpected support was a lifeline. She provided insights into some of Riley's manipulations I hadn't uncovered, and we started quietly collaborating to stabilize the team. One afternoon, during a client meeting, I was blindsided. Our client asked, "How's Riley doing these days? We used to work with him on campaigns." My heart sank. Was this a test? A trap? I chose honesty. "He's no longer with our company due to violations of our ethical policies," I said carefully. "But we've strengthened our processes and team since then." The client nodded, then said, "Thanks for your transparency. It means a lot." But the relief was short-lived. That evening, I received an email marked urgent, from Riley's lawyer. It accused me of defamation, harassment, and threatening behavior. My stomach dropped. The battle had just escalated, and this time, it wasn't just about office gossip or HR complaints. It was legal. I realized I was about to be dragged into a fight much bigger and uglier than I'd imagined. And it was clear Riley was willing to burn everything down, including my career, to win. But I wasn't going down without a fight. The moment I opened that email from Riley's lawyer, a cold wave of dread swept over me. The accusations, defamation, harassment, threatening behavior, were completely false, but that didn't make them any less terrifying. I wasn't a litigious person. I'm not a fighter by nature. But I knew I had to protect myself, and my career. The first call I made was to a lawyer friend from a previous job. I explained everything, sending over all the evidence I'd gathered, emails, screenshots, voice notes, messages from colleagues, the anonymous HR complaint, the client conversations, everything. She listened carefully and said, "You've got a strong case. It's clear Riley's trying to intimidate you. But you have to be very careful. From now on, document everything and avoid direct contact." I nodded, feeling both relieved and vulnerable. Word spread fast, as it always does in a close-knit industry. Some coworkers offered quiet support, others stayed distant, and a few whispered questions about what this might mean for the team. HR scheduled a meeting with me and legal representatives. The company wanted to ensure the situation was handled cleanly, with minimal fallout. At the same time, Riley was spreading a very different narrative. His lawyer claimed I was unstable, vengeful, and disruptive. It was exhausting to keep countering these lies. But what hurt most was watching some of the colleagues I trusted hesitate, unsure which side to believe. The emotional toll was crushing. I felt isolated, anxious, and constantly on edge. I questioned my judgment. Had I missed signs? Could I have stopped this earlier? And yet, deep inside, I knew the truth. This was a fight for my integrity. And I was determined to win. Days turned into weeks, and the tension dragged on like a slow, relentless storm. The legal back and forth with Riley's team was draining, but I refused to let it consume me. I doubled down on my work, proving my value every single day. The promotion Denise promised? It came through officially. New title, new responsibilities, proof that the company still believed in me. But the emotional scars lingered. Every time I walked into the office, I felt eyes on me, some wary, some sympathetic, others clearly waiting for the next misstep. It wasn't just a workplace drama anymore. It was a test of resilience. Then, one afternoon, Samantha pulled me aside. "Look," she said, "I know you're exhausted. But I have an idea. What if we organized a team meeting? Clear the air. Let everyone speak openly." At first, I hesitated. What if it backfired? What if it made things worse? But I was tired of walking on eggshells. So we set it up. The room was tense when we gathered. But as people spoke, about frustrations, misunderstandings, and the toxic atmosphere Riley left behind, something shifted. For the first time in months, there was honesty. There was accountability. There was healing. That meeting didn't fix everything. But it marked a turning point. And as I looked around the room, I realized, sometimes, the hardest battles lead to the strongest alliances. After that meeting, the atmosphere in the office started to change, slowly, but noticeably. People began reaching out, offering genuine apologies or words of encouragement. It was like a fog was lifting. Denise even implemented new policies to prevent anyone else from pulling the kind of sabotage Riley had. Transparent project ownership, better communication channels, and anonymous feedback options. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. But just as I was starting to breathe easier, I got an unexpected message on LinkedIn, from Riley. No insults. No accusations. Just 3 words. "Can we talk?" It caught me off guard. Part of me wanted to block him immediately. The wounds were still fresh, and the thought of hearing from him again made my skin crawl. But another part, the part that wanted closure, hesitated. Was this a genuine attempt to make amends? Or another trap? I sat with that message for hours, then finally replied. "If you have something important to say, I'm listening. But this ends professionally." His reply was immediate. "Understood. Let's meet." And just like that, I was about to face the man who almost destroyed my career, in person. I agreed to meet Riley in a quiet cafe near our office, neutral ground. My heart raced the whole way there. Was this a trap? A chance for real closure? Or just another power play? When I arrived, he was already there, sitting with a nervous energy I hadn't expected. He looked tired, worn down. "I wanted to apologize," he started, voice low. "Not for everything. But for the way I treated you. I was desperate to prove myself, and I took it too far." I listened carefully, guarded but open. He went on to explain his side, pressures from his own past job, fears about failing, and how it spiraled into that toxic behavior. I didn't forgive him immediately. Not after everything. But hearing the cracks in his armor made me realize something: he was broken, too. We talked for an hour, honestly, awkwardly, painfully. No promises of friendship. No illusions of a smooth path ahead. But for the first time, a genuine conversation. Walking away, I felt lighter. Not because everything was fixed. But because sometimes, even in the worst betrayals, there's a moment where understanding can begin. And that moment, as fragile as it was mine. After that meeting, I felt a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. Riley's apology didn't erase the months of damage, but it showed me he was human, flawed, scared, and broken in his own way. Back at work, things didn't instantly change. Some coworkers remained skeptical, others kept their distance. But I started focusing on rebuilding not just my professional reputation but my peace of mind. I threw myself into my new role, taking on challenging projects, mentoring junior teammates, and pushing for a more positive office culture. Slowly, I noticed shifts. People reached out to collaborate. Meetings became more constructive. Even Denise gave me more autonomy. But the hardest change was within me. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or excusing Riley's actions, it was about freeing myself from the weight of resentment. I stopped obsessing over what he did, stopped wondering if the whispers would ever stop. Instead, I focused on what I could control: my integrity, my work, my future. The workplace drama that once felt like a personal war became a chapter in my story. A painful, but powerful chapter. One that taught me about trust, resilience, and the messy, complicated nature of human relationships. And that's a lesson I carry with me every day. Just when I thought things were settling, an unexpected opportunity came my way. Denise approached me with a proposal. She wanted me to lead a cross-departmental project that could put me in the spotlight company-wide. It was the kind of chance I'd dreamed about, but never dared to ask for. I hesitated. The scars from the past made me wary of stepping into the limelight again. But this time, I felt ready. I accepted. The project was intense, demanding long hours, coordination with different teams, and navigating a lot of egos. But every challenge reminded me why I love this work. With Samantha and some new allies by my side, we pushed forward. Our efforts paid off. The project launched successfully, earning praise from executives and clients alike. That victory wasn't just professional, it was personal. A testament to how I refused to let toxicity define me. Instead, I used it as fuel. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. The workplace drama, the betrayals, the setbacks, the emotional turmoil, had made me stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. Looking back now, I see how much that toxic chapter shaped me, not just as a professional, but as a person. I learned to trust my instincts, to stand firm in my values, and to never let anyone else write my story for me. Riley's betrayal was painful, but it forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about office politics and the importance of resilience. Today, I'm proud of the environment we've rebuilt at work, one where collaboration, respect, and transparency come first. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this. No matter how toxic your workplace gets, or how deep the betrayal cuts, you have the power to reclaim your narrative. You can rise above the chaos, rebuild your reputation, and come out stronger. If you found this story relatable or helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more real workplace drama and life lessons. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes the hardest battles lead to the greatest growth.